In the 2000s, Mike Myers was unstoppable. The 90s had solidified him as a comedy legend, and he just completed a 9-year stint on SNL. He'd also spearheaded successful franchises like Wayne's World and Austin Powers.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
At the turn of the new millennium, he continued his insane run by voicing the titular character of Shrek.
Onions have layers. Ogres have layers.
He was actually responsible for the Scottish accent that the character is now so famous for.
Mike Myers first recorded the whole movie using his regular voice, but then changed his mind after seeing the rough cut. He re-recorded every line in a thick Scottish accent, and DreamWorks had to reanimate a massive portion of the movie.
But things weren't always golden for him. In 2000, he got sued by Universal Pictures for backing out of a movie that would have centered around his SNL character, Dieter. He countersued them, and the whole thing was eventually settled, with him agreeing to star in Cat in the Hat as the titular cat.
Are you aware of the senseless wholesale slaughter of the flatulating acid-spitting Zimzizaroo?
Cat in the Hat 2003 was universally panned. It was so bad that it even made the widow of Dr. Seuss declare that she would never, ever, ever sign off on a live-action adaptation of any of her husband's work ever again. To be honest, as a kid, I actually watched this movie and loved it. I loved the 50s style retro aesthetic.
Just vote.
Just vote.
After the failure of Cat in the Hat, Mike Myers was given one more chance to redeem himself. A planned franchise he could lead that would hit all the same beats as Austin Powers. An outsider with a funny accent makes a bunch of dick jokes and saves the day.
It's the beard. It makes me look like Santa.
A movie about a Hindu guru hired on to help the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. To conceive of the character, Mike Myers did the bit at various comedy clubs around New York City. He put out flyers advertising Guru Pitka, and about a third of the attendees actually thought he was a real guru who's there to give spiritual advice. Additionally, Myers wanted to create a hockey movie. As a lifelong Leafs fan, the movie was in part wish fulfillment for his desire to see the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. And as of 2025, that still has not happened.
It's been 84 years.
And so, with the summer release, Myers was given one shot to prove that he could bring audiences to theaters, and he definitely threw it away. The Love Guru is a terrible film. It brings the most stupid elements of a Mike Myers movie with none of the earlier charm and wit that made Austin Powers and Wayne's World so beloved. But as a South Asian Torontonian, I do feel that it is my duty to talk about this movie and what makes it so terrible. The movie starts with our protagonist, Maurice, growing up in small town India. They waste no time making dick jokes.
Intimacy is like putting your wiener on the table.
Anyways, to avoid racism allegations, they do make sure to tell us that he is white but just raised in India.
I was raised here in India. I was born in America.
Although, if that's the case, why is he wearing a fake nose to play this character? It's kind of giving that Bradley Cooper movie. Anyways, then it cuts straight to Hockey Night in Canada.
And now I'd like to apologize to Dame Judi Dench for my vicious and brutal attack.
This is a real-life show that airs on the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, but the main role of this in the movie is to just have a bunch of straight exposition.
He was in a perfect marriage. But before the playoffs, he stunned the world by separating from his wife, Prudence. But the question on everyone's mind is, can the Leafs win without Roanoke?
This movie is anything but subtle. I'm kind of surprised they didn't get Don Cherry to cameo in this movie, seeing as it's like a hockey movie. It's from 2008, and they even feature Hockey Night in Canada, which was his show at the time. But as we'll see, despite being set in Toronto, this movie is very disinterested in portraying anything uniquely Canadian. The other co-host is played by Jim Gaffigan, and the two do have a pretty good chemistry and banter. So they talk about Darren Roanoke's personal life, and they mention that he's having love issues, which I don't think I've ever actually heard anything about a hockey player's personal life. Hockey fans, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't really watch that much, but I don't think people really know much about these people's lives. Also, Justin Timberlake stars as Jacques Lecoq Grande, a French-Canadian goalie who has a very big rooster, if you catch my drift. Jacques plays for the LA Kings and is currently dating Darren's ex, Prudence, who is played by Megan Good. Say what you will about JT, and there's a lot to say about him, but I do think he bodies silly roles like this. Like, I do think he's kind of a natural comedian. His Quebec accent is very funny to me.
Your cats, I'd like to sing a song about the greatest singer ever from Quebec, Miss Celine Dion.
Then they showcase Maurice's transformation into the Guru Pitka. He's shown being friends with all sorts of celebrities, from the Beatles to Jessica Simpson, even Mariska Hargitay, which becomes a very overused joke. He also has an assistant named Rajneesh, who is actually brown. John Oliver, another juggernaut of late night, appears in this movie, and he plays the character Dick Pants. Dick Pants is Guru Pitka's agent, and he tells Guru Pitka that he can get onto Oprah if he gets Darren and Prudence back together. This is something the Guru Pitka really wants, because Deepak Chopra, his number one rival, is Oprah's favorite guru. I forgot how impactful Oprah was back in 2008. That same year, she was partially credited with Barack Obama's presidential win. So these days she just exists as like a billionaire bestie of Jeff Bezos. But in 2008, she really was creating culture. Then we get a flashback to a young Maurice being brought up by the guru Tagamapinda, played by Sir Ben Kingsley. We learn that Maurice / Guru Pitka was raised with Deepak Chopra, and they've been enemies / rivals for some time now. Maurice's white parents are revealed to have been missionaries who also did dog hairstyling, and it's a setup for the dumbest sex joke of all time.
Speak of your parents.
They are both dead. They were missionaries.
And what did they do before them?
They were dog stylists.
So, let me get this straight. They were into doggy style before the missionary position.
It's hilarious. My parents are dead. Thanks.
Then Maurice says he wants to attract girls, so Guru Tagamapinda makes him wear a chastity belt that has an elephant and a lock. Are chastity belts a thing in Hinduism? Because I guess cultural accuracy is a little bit too much to ask from this movie. Anyways, there are some more dick joke Indian names, whatever. Then they explain the Mariska Hargitay joke.
Mariska Hargitay.
Mariska Hargitay. Mariska Hargitay?
Guru Pitka is then introduced to Jane, the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This character is clearly there to serve as Mike Myers' love interest. But like, in reality, why would a gorgeous, rich 28-year-old woman be attracted to this guy?
I kind of have a schoolgirl crush.
Really?
What was that?
I didn't hear anything.
Vern Troyer, who played Mini-Me in the Austin Powers movies, stars as coach of the Leafs. Predictably, Guru Pitka makes a bunch of jokes about his height, which enrages Cherkov, and he basically hates Guru Pitka for the rest of the movie.
Who is this prick?
Jane says that the Leafs are under the Ballard curse. In this universe, her family has owned the Leafs since 1967, and they have not won the Stanley Cup since then. And now everyone in Toronto hates her. And the thought that the people even know who the owner of the Leafs is kind of funny to me. I feel like if anything, they would rage at the coach, not just like the ownership structure. Then Guru Pitka meets Darren and proves that his playing is connected to his marriage by lying to him.
I lied. Prudence is still with Jacques Rondeau. He still has the biggest wiener in hockey.
Not gonna lie, I did laugh at this discussion of Jacques.
Is it true? Yes. He has a ginormous hog.
Then Guru Pitka and Rajneesh magically travel to Los Angeles and break into Jacques' home. They get into a fight with his rooster.
You wear my hat.
It's pure chaos. Anyway, it's also kind of funny that this whole thing is built around getting Prudence to forgive Darren, but we have no idea what he did to make her so mad. Then they get confronted by Jacques, who, all things considered, is actually underreacting to two men breaking into his house and killing his rooster.
I think you are an amazing guru and hey, mister, what did you do to my rooster?
Then they make another dumb dick joke.
Looks like he's smuggling a schnauzer. Yeah.
Guru Pitka keeps laughing at his own jokes, probably because otherwise, as an audience, we wouldn't even realize that they were meant to be funny. This movie just feels like a half-baked TikTok sketch. Like some influencer did a POV that's like, POV, the guru that celebrities hire, and then they make a 90-minute movie just based off of that one idea. Then while they're playing a game, Guru Pitka gives Darren permission to do anything. So he gets into a brawl and almost kills Jacques, who is definitely getting a concussion from this. Honestly, Jacques does not seem like that bad of a guy. From his perspective in this movie, his house gets broken into and they kill his rooster. Then the ex of his current girlfriend starts a psychotic fight with him at his workplace. As I said earlier, this movie is not interested in having anything actually be Canadian. So Darren is explicitly from the US, and we learn that his mom lives in Buffalo. They go to visit her and discover that she's a bit of a tiger parent and puts a lot of pressure on Darren. Because of this, he's never actually invited her to watch him play hockey.
Now, why won't you let your mom come see you play?
It's just that you're not always the most supportive, huh?
Supportive? Pressure makes diamonds.
I actually like Guru Pitka and Darren's dynamic. Romany Malco and Mike Myers have good chemistry together.
Someone's in here.
You're laughing! Why am I laughing? Look what you did to my jacket.
They get into a Looney Tunes style bar fight and get beat up by girl children. Then they go to a clearly green-screened Niagara Falls. Also, it's revealed that Darren is the one who broke up with Prudence, so this whole thing makes me even more confused as to why he's so angry that she got with someone else. And we also learned that their special word together was damn.
Prudence would stay into my eyes, and she'd say,
Damn.
Then they go to Casa Loma, which has been repurposed to be Guru Pitka's abode for the movie. And Guru Pitka has a date with Jane. And I really do hate how any reference to South Asian culture in this movie is just a dick joke, but I guess any reference to anything in this movie is just a dick joke, so maybe I shouldn't be offended. They eat some food that looks like balls.
Rajneesh will now prepare a dish. It's called Kata Palbera Galapat. Nuts in a sling.
It's like, girl, stop laughing. Have some respect. This man is not funny. It's revealed that Stephen Colbert's character is on drugs in a scene that goes on for far too long.
I like the Christmas baby, Trent. And I like the way my skin feels when I'm wearing my rainbow jacket. By your command.
You're back on drugs, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Then Guru Pitka finds Prudence and Jacques at a nightclub and distracts Jacques in possibly one of the funniest lines in the movie.
Celine Dion! Celine, it is my day of lucky!
Guru Pitka convinces Prudence to forgive Darren by lying to her and telling her that Darren has finally stood up to his mother, even though we saw that he didn't. But Jacques overhears this, and you can tell he clearly has some plan. Then there's some weird fake like mid-2000s movie conflict where he lies to Jane about how fixed Darren is so that he can get onto Oprah because Dick Pants really, really, really wants him on Oprah.
You are 100% booked on Oprah.
Doesn't feel good, does it?
Get off my tits!
Then he's at the generically named Toronto airport. Come on, they couldn't even call it Pearson Airport. While he's at the airport, the hockey game is going on to win the Stanley Cup. Darren's mom comes to sing the US anthem at Jacques' invitation, which is a wild thing to do if your son plays for a Canadian team. Darren chokes up and he can't play after he sees his mom. So Guru Pitka leaves the airport, grabs his elephant, and rushes to the arena. The Kings score a point and are leading in the game. Jane crashes out at the game watchers who are heckling her in a very unearned scene. Like,
You can say bad things about me, but I won't say bad things about myself. You can all just kiss my Canadian ass!
Guru Pitka shows his chastity belt to Jane, and she's happy about this for some reason.
You didn't reject me. You're just devoted to a higher purpose.
Pitka gives Darren a pep talk, and he stands up to his mom finally. Honestly, at this point, I might be rushing through the points of the movie because it's so hard to watch. Then a circus elephant walks down Bay Street. Darren gets onto the ice finally, and he scores a point. So then now the game is tied. He gets a penalty shot. So he's facing down against Jacques. Jacques gets into his head by cucking him.
I just need to say, damn.
And then to distract Darren from his stress about being cucked, Pitka gets the elephants to have sex on the ice. Because of course they do. It's this movie after all. Before this even happened, I was like, I had written in my notes, I feel like they're gonna make the elephants bone. And then what do you know it? They did. Somehow the elephant boning works and it gets Darren's head in the game. Darren scores a winning goal with the power of elephant boning. Mike Myers and Kanye West cameo in a return of their famous clip.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
And Deepak Chopra shows up and asks him why he didn't go to Oprah.
Maurice! Deepak Chopra!
I guess it's like to show growth or something that he no longer cares about being on Oprah.
I don't need to become the next Deepak Chopra. I am the first Guru Pitka.
Also, Dick Pants was mad, so he storms off. Now the movie flashes to India, where we see Guru Pitka is there with Jane. Guru Tagamai Pinda removes the chastity belt very easily.
There is no key. There never was. There's a snap in the back.
Much to Pitka's dismay. Then they do a Bollywood rendition of Space Cowboy, where it's revealed that the only reason that Guru Pitka's first name is Maurice is so that they could sing this song.
Some people call me Maurice.
It's a fun ending. It kind of eats. Jessica Alba looks great in Bollywood clothes. Yeah, that's The Love Guru. Part 2. The aftermath. As mentioned earlier, the films were intended to spark a franchise, which didn't end up happening. With a budget of $62 million, it only made $40 million. And there's a couple of reasons for that. By the mid-late 2000s, this style of comedy felt very dated. Lower-key Judd Apatow style comedies like The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up were dominating this era. And having these overdone, wacky characters just felt old. But that's not to say that these style of movies couldn't make money at that time. Don't Mess with the Zoran, Adam Sandler's awful propaganda movie, was released the same weekend and grossed over $200 million on a $90 million budget. The Love Guru derailed the careers of most of the people involved. Jessica Alba never really reached her early career success after this, with all 5 of her 2010 movies earning her a Worst Actress Razzie nominations. Romani Malco, who had been cementing his status in comedy films with movies that were both commercially and critically successful, like The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Blades of Glory, had a 10-year gap before he landed another comedy film with Kevin Hart's Night School in 2018. And Mike Myers. Let's talk about that man. Part 2.5, the cancellation of Mike Myers. As I said, Mike Myers was a comedy legend at that time, and arguably still is. His movies earned a ton of money and are still quoted to this day.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
I know I grew up watching on the Austin Powers movies, and I still find them quite hilarious. Stupid, but hilarious.
There are only two things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
But by the time The Love Guru was in production, he'd already earned a reputation of being difficult to work with.
Myers' The Cat in the Hat co-star Amy Hill painted a pretty unflattering portrait of the film's lead. She characterized Myers as a diva who constantly made the casting crew wait while he micromanaged the entire production. Wayne's World director Penelope Spheris got her own digs in, describing him as emotionally needy and saying he got more difficult as the shoot went along. Rob Fried, who produced So I Married an Axe Murderer, put things in even starker terms, telling The Telegraph, "I think Mike's a visionary, but his way of getting what he wants is to threaten and express anger."
Myers also fired his bodyguard while filming The Love Guru after he looked at him directly in the eye. I'm sure there were more instances like this out there. These are just the ones that are on public record, but he was clearly creating a toxic work environment. The fact that The Love Guru bombed was just more of an excuse to get him out of Hollywood as opposed to like the actual reason. He's having somewhat of a comeback arc these days. He played Elon Musk on SNL.
Cause I feel like it.
Wore a Canada is not for sale hat, and endorsed Mark Carney for Prime Minister of Canada.
What are the two seasons in Toronto? Winter and construction? Wow. You really are Canadian.
The nostalgia cycle means people are missing this era of goofy comedy from the early mid 2000s. And so people look at the Austin Powers days with rose-colored glasses. As I always say, cancellation isn't real for celebs. Mike Myers creating a toxic work environment is definitely something he can come back from, regardless of whether or not he's actually changed. It's not like people care that much about workers. Like maybe if he'd sexually harassed people, that would have been a big deal, but harassing workers and firing people without just cause.
They're saying I'm firing people with no cause. It's cause I feel like it. Come on!
See, people don't really seem to care about that. Look at Naomi Campbell, look at Ellen. I mean, Ellen actually got canceled, but I think Mike Myers can come back from this. I don't feel that this is something that will ruin his career forever. He's definitely going to have a comeback arc. Part 3, the writing. I'm sure I made it clear in this video that I think this movie is very dumb, but the question remains, is it dumb and fun, or is it just dumb? There is another movie that The Love Guru wants to be like, and that movie is Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery.
Allow myself to introduce myself.
The Love Guru wants to be Austin Powers so bad, but when Mike Myers created Austin Powers, he had a better idea of what he was actually skewering. Austin Powers is clearly a parody of James Bond and just 60s British media in general, and it does such a good job at parodying that stuff that it actually like refreshed it for a younger audience.
My name is number 2. This is my Italian confidential secretary. Her name is Alata. Alata Facciano.
But The Love Guru doesn't really seem to have a point or a real thing to make fun of. It's insensitive, yes, but it also just doesn't really have a point of view beyond dick jokes.
You like your nuts to be crushed?
On one hand, you can tell Myers wanted to make fun of like white celebrity spiritualism, but it comes across as weird because he clearly doesn't know much about the world he's trying to make fun of. He doesn't make fun of the celebrities themselves. The cameos are all pretty flattering, and they just seem to exist, not to have any real purpose in the movie.
Mariska Hargitay, Jessica Simpson.
Mariska Hargitay, Your Holiness.
And he also doesn't really make fun of it from a capitalistic perspective, like, oh, they're trying to sell you enlightenment, which I think this movie could have been quite funny if it had done either one of those angles. He just does a funny accent and vaguely makes fun of the idea of spirituality, but he doesn't take a stance either way. The result is a movie that just feels very half-baked. Guru Pitka was initially conceived to be in the Austin Powers movies, and I could totally see how he would be in place in like the shagadelic 60s aesthetic of those films. So in the 60s, there was that free love movement, Eastern spirituality, like that one Beatle, George? Was it George? One of them went to India, became spiritualist. Like that was big in the 60s. So I could see how Guru Pitka would make sense in that world. In the modern day, it just feels odd. Guru Pitka can't hold an entire movie because of that. If he'd wanted it to be the modern day, he could have played a sort of Goop-esque, Gwyneth Paltrow-esque, Tom Cruise-esque spiritual leader that's clearly just running a cult or something. I think that would have been a more funny and interesting film than what we got, which was kind of two different ideas trying to be blended together. Additionally, something I was a little bit disappointed by, and again, mentioned earlier, this movie is not interested in anything Canada specific. Although it primarily takes place in Toronto and is centered on the Toronto Maple Leafs, no Canadian culture is shown on screen. Darren is explicitly American. They sing the US national anthem on screen, but not the Canadian one. The Hockey Night in Canada hosts, while I love Stephen Colbert and Jim Gaffigan, should have been Canadian celebrities and not American ones, in my opinion. I'm not a Don Cherry fan, but I think if they were going to use the whole logo and branding from the real show, they should have just used the actual hosts from that time, or at least hired Canadian comedians to fill that role, and then they could have done a really fun parody because they really know what this show actually looks like. I think sometimes if Sean Majumdar would have been a funny choice because he would often parody it when he was on 22 Minutes. Or Nathan Fielder, who at that time was also on 22 Minutes, also doing like fake news reporting. I think those would have been better choices than having American comedians come in who have never seen Hockey Night in Canada and clearly don't have much love for the source material, so they just do their own takes. Jane is the only explicitly Canadian character, and it's just revealed in a throwaway line where she says, "Kiss my Canadian ass." They don't talk about anything to do with our country, and I think that's a missed opportunity. Scott Pilgrim, released only 2 years later, is filled with Canadian music, on-location shots, and cultural in-jokes. They even have a Canadian play Scott, Michael Cera. Like The Love Guru, Scott Pilgrim did have an American production company and audience, but it still managed to feel very Toronto in that sense. The Love Guru could be set anywhere in the US. They could have made it about the New York Rangers and it would have been the exact same film. And that's a damn shame. Mike Myers' only movie to be set in Canada, and it's so American. The movie really feels like a first draft. Like Myers just wrote down some jokes onto a napkin and then was like, okay, that's the movie. Half the jokes don't even have punchlines. But anyways, my point being, is it dumb in a fun way or dumb in a stupid way? Both. I don't even think this movie is good enough to watch when you're like drunk at a party or at like with your friends. If you want to watch something that's as silly but the jokes are actually funny and land well, I would just tell people to watch Austin Powers. There's 3 of them. They're way funnier than this and feel more like real movies, and they're much more iconic than this. A couple moments made me laugh, and there was a couple of glints of a good idea, but overall, I did not think it was a well-done movie, and it really needed to have more edits and a second draft. Part 4, my remake. People always say about older comedies, this could never be released today. Which begs the question, could you release The Love Guru in 2025? How would you change it for modern audiences? And so for this fan cast, I'm going to be doing a remake. Mike Myers, if you're watching, hit me up. Would love a producer on this. I think Guru Pitka should be played by someone who's of Indian descent but was raised in Canada. So I would probably cast Just Rain in this role. His name is Maurice because his dad was a Habs fan, and the dad could be played by Ben Kingsley in sort of a callback. But I don't think he'd be as like silly as Maurice in the original. He would be more of like a scammer / influencer type. People think he's this spiritual guru just because he has a beard and a turban. Because he's like a social media spiritual guru, his main rival is Jay Shetty instead of Deepak Chopra, because Jay Shetty is like the main one who was like a monk and everything. And they both have hugely like white female audiences. Maybe Gwyneth Paltrow cameos as one of his clients or something like that. And maybe his big break would just be getting on the Gwyneth Paltrow Goop podcast or some project with her. And Jay Shetty is kind of beating him to the punch. And he's like, no, I am going to be the one to teach yoga to white ladies. I think that angle could actually make the Love Guru a much more palatable character. Then, like in the original, he'd get the call to help Darren Roanoke. This Darren would be played by Tristan Thompson, and he'd be dumb as bricks. In this version, he's a Leafs player who's getting canceled online because he cheated on his reality TV girlfriend extremely publicly. And this version of Prudence would be played by Francesca Fargo. The comedy here would come from Just Rain's character being a bit of like a smart scammer, schemer. We kind of combine the character of Dick Pants with Guru Pitka into one character. And then we would have the foil of Tristan Thompson just being extremely dumb and saying cancelable things. Then he would meet the coach / owner. I mean, I think in this version, she's not the owner. She's just the coach. And she'd be played by Hannah Simone. She inherited the team from the previous coach, but MLSE, the company that owns the Leafs, are planning to fire her because fans are mad that a woman coach is the reason that the Leafs are losing. I think in this version, Jacques Lecoq should play for the Montreal Canadiens, but he's played by Drake. Drake and Justin Timberlake kind of have the same energy to me somehow.
Did someone order the special Quebec pizza?
Drake is also known to have similar features as Jacques. In this version, I think Jacques would have more of a relationship with Guru Pitka himself. Maybe this version, Jacques asks Guru Pitka for help with Prudence, and then he's kind of stuck in the middle and there's some kind of conflict there. And in this version, Prudence and Darren don't stay together. She actually dumps both him and Jacques and then becomes full man-hating femcel on the internet. Pitka does help the Leafs win the cup. Maybe it's Tristan Thompson who's the one who ends up wearing a chastity belt. This wins the fans back over to Jane's side and she doesn't get fired for being a woman. And it proves that women can coach men's sports. Yay! And then it turns out that the reason she hasn't gotten with the Guru earlier is that she thought that all Sikhs take a vow of chastity and he's like, no, what the hell? Like, why would you think that? And then they get together and that's the movie. So yes, I do think you could make the Love Guru today. You would just need more of a point of view on who it's actually making fun of. I think in my version, they'd be more making fun of celebrity culture and like spirituality / wellness culture, especially in the online space. If you just had a POV, you could remake this story and it could actually be an entertaining watch. I just think the way they did it, it was very like, what are you trying to say? It just feels like content for 2 hours. So yeah, that was my experience watching the Mike Myers allegedly racist hockey movie. It honestly wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and also not as offensive as I thought it would be, but I think it not being that offensive just comes from the fact that it isn't saying anything. Like, there's no opinions being formed by whoever wrote the script. It's just stuff. It's just gags for an hour and a half. That is why the movie isn't that offensive. It's not because the movie is actually trying not to be offensive. 86 minutes, and I really felt all 86 of those minutes. I had to split up my watch because it felt like it dragged. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I make videos about Canada and Canadian specific content. I post monthly or whenever I can. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I post daily on TikTok. Bye.
I'd like to show my love by making for you a Quebec pizza.
What's that?
Pop-Tart with the ketchup. She's good.